It's a beautiful weather here in Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, at 23 degrees. Good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Good morning and welcome. Yes, indeed, it's a lovely Friday morning. I'm Kayla Megwa, and of course, between yesterday and today, we've been told, I know Abuja people like to let their freak flag fly on Friday or whatever, but we've been told to be very calm and careful in our movements today, especially in the Kubwa axis. Josephine Ade sent a message, the spokesperson for the FCT police. And then she said, everyone, just try to stay away from conflict. And if you see any crowd gathering anywhere, just, stay away from it. But try and enjoy your weekend that's starting today.
Well, talking about enjoyment, Kayla, there's certainly something for our viewers to take a look and enjoy this morning. If you have been with this program for years, you certainly would not have missed this story, which we have brought to you from time to time, of Pastor Solomon Folorunsho and the International Christian Center for Missions, where he established a home for the needy in Ogugwa in Edo State. It's such a wonderful story that yesterday at the call to bar ceremony, which held here in Abuja and has been on for the last 3 days in the Federal Capital Territory, there was a climax, a very happy climax of sort. For those who have been monitoring the program, watching with us all of these years, we did reach out to you on this program to be of support to this center, and we're very happy to report that many years later, that center now boasts at least 5 lawyers who were called to bar yesterday. They're going to be appearing very briefly. Well, I'm afraid that we will not be able to take an interview with them, but our sister program, Morning Brief, already featured them. So if you'd like to listen to their story, you can always go to our website. But we are not going to resist the moment to tell the story of these people and show them to you, because you deserve. Those who have been with us on this program for as long as they have need to know that it's not just about politics, it is also about impact, and sometimes it's about the things, inspiration, the things that are possible when it is that Nigerians come together and decide to do a great thing. Kayla.
I mean, I remember, I think Pastor Folorunsho is the one that owns that center that is somewhere in Edo State, and has been very instrumental, really, to helping a lot of young people do very, very well. And he's joining us right now. I mean, I'm excited, really, about meeting him, and also meeting all the children. Well, they're not children anymore, are they? They're lawyers now. Yes.
Kayla, the young have grown.
Yes, they have grown.
And you have to get used to it.
I remember seeing those children, a group of children with you in December.
Yes.
Where you had them lined up and they were singing during Christmas.
Yes.
And I think these are products of that particular center.
Yes.
It's a very wonderful success story. We're so excited to see you. How are you guys doing this morning?
We are doing great. We are doing great. We are celebrating.
Yes, and we are celebrating with you. We couldn't let this moment pass by, even though we will not be able to take you for as long as we would have loved, because you deserve a whole documentary all by yourself. That is the truth, because we have been able to chronicle over the years. I know what it was like, in those years when people doubted and wondered, is this man insane, trying to have 4,000 children?
Did he have an ulterior motive?
Exactly.
Should we investigate him?
Yes.
They tried to close the doors of your of that particular orphanage.
And they did everything. I was investigated, arrested. Sometimes from early morning till late evening, I will be questioned, no food, nothing. I went through a lot. And many people said, why would you take these people? Leave them. They are not your children. But I said, my heart just can't let them go. They are like me. They are human beings like me, and they need what I have. This is the only thing I can give to them. All I need is your support. In fact, there were a lot of things, but we kept going. We felt one day they'll be able to tell their stories by themselves.
Yes.
And here they are.
And here they are. Today we have in our studios with us, not just Pastor Folorunsho, we also have Nathan, if I call you, just say present. Nathan Ibrahim. Present. That's you. David Ayuba.
Present.
Rifatu Ali.
Present.
Saminu Wakili.
Present.
And we also have Peter Isaac with us.
Present.
Gentlemen, or lady and gentlemen, it's such a pleasure to have you. I mean, we still look forward to telling the story in great detail. And we know that it's a continuing one because there are still children in the camp.
So more success stories.
A lot.
More kids.
This year,
yes,
we are going to give Nigeria more than 40 graduates in different fields.
Good.
Yes. A lot of them are just writing their final year exams right now.
Okay.
Yes.
In university?
Yes. Beside the 5 doctors, just like them, we have 5 doctors, 1 girl and 4 boys.
Okay.
They are all in different hospitals right now as we are talking. And then so many more are coming.
How's your son doing the PhD in the US? How is he doing?
He's doing, oh, that child is brilliant. It's brilliant. And he always tells me that when he's done, he's coming back to help build this country.
Oh.
Yes.
This country has prospects. Mr. Solomon Folarunshaw, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. You guys, thank you so much for making us all very proud. This is for our viewers. We just couldn't resist because we know that some people reached out to us watching you all of the years on this program. And we just said, you know what? We will bring them to you. We'll bring you to them because they also deserve to share in this success story. Thank you so much, Pastor Folarunshaw. We will be catching up with you subsequently. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming on the program. God bless and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that is one happy story. It's not every day you get a story of inspiration on Sunrise Daily. Most times we're lamenting the woes of our country, but
faith in humanity restored.
But sometimes, you know, the sun does truly shine through the very dark clouds. And, you know, this is what you get when that happens. Well, we're going to be going to some other matters right now because, yes, while the call to bar ceremony was happening in Abuja, another event which we did tell you about, the OPL 245, was also, a story was told around it by former Attorney General Mohammed Bello Adoke, who, you know, chronicled the controversy around that very controversial oil operating license. Well, yesterday, it was a very interesting guest list that appeared at that book launch. I mean, I was quite surprised, maybe not so surprised, but I did not think I was going to see the vice president there.
Yes, it wasn't a surprise. It was our eyebrows went up. Oh, okay, the vice president is here.
Exactly.
Especially when we're looking at the Amechi.
The roll call.
You know, we're looking at the people in the...
El
Rufai, you know. and then the excuse that we all made, at least I made the excuse was, well, Mr. Adoke was during the People's Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So it's only natural. This is a story about him and what he went through and what this operating license did to him, his family, his reputation, and opens up a lot of things. We're not saying it's the truth about what happens. It is his account
of what happened.
Well, you know.
There is that for you to look at. So if you're very interested in that particular story, you might want to watch this report. And then we also covered it live, so you might want to watch the entirety of that as well. But that was not what was surprising. I think that what was surprising were the comments of the vice president at that event. And a lot of people had their eyebrows raised when because much as he might have wanted to, you know, praise Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke for being a man of integrity and a man who stands for what is right no matter what, how there were implications to what the vice president said at that event. So we're just going to ask you to take a listen and then we'll go to our guest, who is a lawyer. We'll be joined by Ms. Barrister Akim Udum, who is a principal partner at the Justice Chambers in Oyo, Akwa Ibom State, who will be joining us to also see if it hit him like that. Well, here is Vice President Kashim Shettima.
Former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan GCFR, with whom we have shared the sword and have now recalibrated our relationship, was mooting the idea of removing this Borno governor, and Aminu Waziri Tambuwal, the then Speaker of the House of Representatives, had the courage to tell the president that, Your Excellency, you don't have the power to remove an elected councillor. The president was still not convinced. He mooted the idea at the Federal Executive Council. I admire Mr. Mohammed Bello Adoke fundamentally for his courage and for his convictions and for his capacity to stand for what he believes in. He told the then president that, Mr. President, you do not have the power to remove a sitting governor, not even a councillor. They sought for the opinion
that he has for Mr. Bello Mohamed Adoke as a result of his courage and standing for what he truly believes in. And this, was on the basis of telling Mr. President at the time, President Goodluck Jonathan, who he says seemed to be about removing the then governor of Borno State after he had declared a state of emergency in the states of Borno, Yobe, and Adamawa. But there were conversations as to whether or not the governors were going to have to be removed. And he says that the Attorney General, stood his ground and told the president, you do not have the powers to do so. Now, for a number of people, they'll say it's a little ironic because here the vice president is in an administration where the current president has suspended a sitting governor in Rivers State. And that has been a matter of controversy. Yes, we know that PDP governors have gone to court to challenge that at the Supreme Court. It hasn't, that case hasn't quite come to light. It hasn't seen the light. The Supreme Court justices are yet to make a pronouncement on this. But this statement certainly has political implications. And let's go to our guests very quickly now. Baris Akim Udum, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Barrister.
Thank you so much for having me, Malcolm.
Did this statement come to you? I mean, let me just ask you, how did you perceive this statement when you heard it?
Well, for me, I think we should appreciate the Vice President of Nigeria for coming out to say this. It's restating the obvious. We have said repeatedly, especially when the governor of Rivers State was suspended. We said it repeatedly, and so many other persons in Nigeria, they said it repeatedly that, see, the Constitution of Nigeria has no provision for the suspension of an elected governor. And the Vice President has even stated that the President does not even have the power to suspend an elected councillor, how much more a governor. So I thank the Vice President of Nigeria for coming out to say this. And I remember that during Jonathan's administration, there were calls for President Jonathan to declare state of emergency in total in Borno State and then suspend the sitting governor. But he refused to do that, certainly as a result of the advice that he got from the Attorney General. One would have expected that the same advice be given to the President of Nigeria in the Rivers State matter, not to go against the Constitution and then suspend a sitting governor. It's a dark part of our history, our democratic history, that a sitting governor, an elected governor, was suspended not only by the President, but by the concurrence of the House of Representatives, lawmakers, and also the concurrence of the Senate, also lawmakers. In the Senate and in the House of Representatives, I'm sure we have not less than 30, if not up to 50 lawyers, some very senior lawyers. I had expected them to advise the President not to toe the line that he told in declaring the state of emergency in Rivers State to the extent of suspending a sitting governor. Yes, some persons would say that the Vice President also have said the same thing to the President. He's very close to the President. And one would have also expected that when he heard about the intention to declare the state of emergency and suspend the sitting governor, he should have walked into the President's office to say, Your Excellency, I remember what happened during my time as governor of Borno State. The President was rightly advised that there is no section of the Constitution that allows the suspension of a sitting governor. I benefited from that legal advice. Mr. President, please do not suspend a sitting governor, except his excuse would be that that decision was taken without his knowledge. But if the decision was taken with his knowledge, then the Vice President did not also do well because people had to speak for him. One would have expected that he would speak also for the Rivers State matter. But in all, I must commend him for coming out to say this.
I mean, Barrister Udum, while we commend him, while you're commending him as well, for coming out and speaking and reminding everyone of this particular time in Nigeria's history. Many people have kind of alluded to the fact that his statements may be giving some credibility to some of the rumors about the friction between him and his principal. And, that conversation really has spiraled into all kinds of thought processes and narratives on social media and wherever, even on regular media, people are talking about this. What do you think about that? Some people have said that this is actually lending credence to that talk about him not coming back if President Tinubu wins the election in 2027, leaving the office of the vice president open. Is this him, consolidating on himself and taking a stand, knowing that he may not be coming back? What do you think about these conversations?
Well, for me, I don't think it is as a result of cracks between the office of the president and the office of the vice president, or between Shettima as a person and the president as a person. I rather think this is someone deciding to state the obvious, deciding to, tell a story, to keep history right.
Not to cut you, Baris, yes. But in stating the obvious, it does seem like it is a direct pointing fingers directly at the president, because what he's saying he survived is what we're looking at Fubara right now and thinking that, this was not right done to Fubara. So it does feel like you're pointing hands at your principal and saying, look, this happened to me, and then we're now brought to the remembrance of what this president did in Rivers State.
Well, all this is possible, but also note that the vice president could have decided to go to Bello's book launch, the former attorney general, go to the book launch, and decide not to say this part of what he said at the book launch. So I think it is rather a man that has decided to keep history the way it should be kept, tell a story, let the younger generation of Nigerians also get to know exactly what happened at that time, and not necessarily as a result of the fact that there are cracks between the relationship between the vice president and the president. Even if there are cracks, I'm sure that the vice president could have gone to the book launch and just say any other thing, say good about Bello, former attorney general, and then leave without stating this part. But for me, this is me, I'm thinking that it is just a man being happy about what happened, how people intervened, and the man that is doing the book launch is one of the key persons, that intervened for him when it mattered most. It may not necessarily be because there are cracks between him and the president, but it's also possible that it's because there are cracks between him and the president. But like I said, I am one of the persons commending him for coming out to say this now, though I am saying that he should have also rebelled on the president, persuaded the president not to do the same thing in Rivers State. But on the whole, I must thank him for coming out to say this. This will go a long way to stop the presidency, also in making the self-declaration against any other state of the Federation, because there is no provision of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria that gives the president the rights to suspend the sitting governor. And I felt very embarrassed.
Mr. Udum, just as we're wrapping up, it also brings to mind our current Attorney General. What do you think should be at the back of his mind as he's listening to how a former Attorney General stood up for something? Should he have said something at the time?
Honestly, I had expected the current Attorney General to do the same thing that Bello Adoke did. Go to the president and tell the president, I am the person that has studied the Constitution all these years. I go to the courts, I defend the Constitution, and I am the chief law officer. The Constitution does not allow you to suspend a sitting governor and does not also allow you to suspend the House of Assembly. If that had been done, I am sure that the president wouldn't have still gone ahead to declare a state of emergency in Rivers State to the extent of suspending a sitting governor. That action of the president, with the greatest respect to the president, is a dent on the Constitution of Nigeria, and it's also a dent on our democracy, because it's been recorded in history that during this administration, the Constitution was ignored, a sitting governor was suspended, a sole administrator was appointed, and you have seen the confusion that has created. The sole administrator in Rivers State has not really been able to perform the functions of the office that he was asked to go and perform. You can see him not being allowed to be the one presenting the budget to the National Assembly, It is the president that presented. That itself is unknown to the Constitution. And you can see him struggling to even have a foot. Standing in the office that he was appointed to go and preside over. And this goes to show clearly that the whole thing that happened in Rivers State, from Abuja, declaring the state of emergency and making a sole administrator and suspending the governor, is completely illegal. And I hope that this is not done anymore by the president against any other governor.
Baris Udum, I'm sure that we haven't quite heard the last on that particular matter. It's a developing story. I'd like to see it as that. But one matter which we saw a note of finality on was the Supreme Court judgment on the governorship election in Edo State, which I'd like to bring to you very quickly. The Supreme Court dismissed the appeal filed by the PDP and its candidates in the 2024 Edo governorship election, Aswe Godalo. The Apex Court noted that the appellants challenged 395 polling units out of the 5,019 polling units in the entire state. The court held that the appellants did not discharge the onus of proof imposed on them as petitioners under Section 135 of the Electoral Act for establishing substantial non-compliance. That term again, it does appear that every election will be decided on that particular issue, substantial non-compliance. Did it come as any surprise to you?
No, it did not come as any surprise to me. Incidentally, I have had the privilege of representing petitioners at the Election Petition Tribunal. I've also had the privilege of representing respondents. And I know the enormity of the burden placed on the petitioner by the law. And therefore, it never came to me as a surprise. For you to challenge a governorship election in this country, the principles of law that you must rely on are such that it becomes Herculean for you to challenge it successfully. Now you are expected to challenge it polling units by polling units. I saw Igodalo challenged 350 something polling units. Now, the law says you are expected to bring witnesses to testify from the 350 something polling units. And yes, the Constitution gives the tribunal 180 days. This 180 days is to be shared among every other person that is before the courts. And how do you bring 350 something people to testify in court and be cross-examined by all the parties? And you would be expected to have this done maybe within 60 days because you are not the only person before the tribunal. Now, this makes it very difficult for the petitioners to succeed in election petition in this country. Now, the bulk of the work is done at the tribunal. So at the Court of Appeal, it is just to look at what the Court of Appeal did. At the Supreme Court, it is, to look at what the tribunal did. At the Supreme Court, it is to look at what the Court of Appeal did. Now, when the evidence is presented to the court with documents, and
Baris Udum, I wish we could go through the process blow by blow, but you know what you know, and you've tried to explain to Nigerians what substantial non-compliance means. And given the fact that, this is the amount of polling units he challenged versus the amount of polling units there exist in Edo State, do you think then that the final statement, I was going to say the finality, which Mr. Aswe Ighodalo proclaimed that what happened in Edo State was a robbery, is a fair assessment on the judgments given by the Supreme Court?
Well, I totally understand Aswe Ighodalo. I can feel his pains. He went through the campaigns and everything. He expected victory. But I would not say it's robbery. As a lawyer, I would not be expected to say that. Not because I'm a lawyer, but I don't think it was robbery. It is just because the principles of law in this country are such that Aswe Ighodalo was going to have it very difficult for him to prove the allegations that he made. And for as long as we continue to allow the courts to decide who wins election in Nigeria, we still have a problem at hand. Election must be won at the polling units, declared at the polling units. The transmission should be done electronically without adulteration of the transmission process. Let power belong to the people. When you allow the courts decide based on the evidence presented to the court. Don't forget that INEC is also a party before the court. INEC is expected to also present evidence. INEC is the body that keeps the documents. And therefore, we must have a situation in this country where election is decided at the polling units and it stands. It doesn't get adulterated during collation. When that is done, I'm sure that collation. When that is done, I'm sure that most people that lose will not go, to the election petition tribunal. Look at what happened in Ghana. Vice President Baumea, many hours before the close of polls, had to congratulate John Mahama
Barrister Udum,
because for him, he has
I'm
seen a very clear
afraid
process.
we have to
need that
go.
in this country
We
also.
really do have to go. We have to thank you for your time. We do look forward to a day when elections will be decided with finality at the polls in our country. But we have to thank you so much for being on the program. Barrister Akim Udum is a principal partner at Justice Chambers, and he's joined us from Uyo in Akwa Ibom State.
My pleasure.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be having the Minister of Arts, Culture and Tourism join us on Sunrise Daily. Please stay with us. Seen her do spoken word, but I mean, that's not all that she does. She does a whole lot as a Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the creative economy. I have to add that, lest I be sanctioned. But Honorable Minister Hanasu Musawa, it is wonderful to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, sister. Thank you for having me. It's been so long.
It has been.
And I think we have to do this more often.
Indeed, we have.
Absolutely.
So let's take a look at your ministry. And one of the things I've seen that you've tried to, highlight is the issue of unity. And how it is possible for us to bring out our creativity to enhance our unity. But one of the things that's always threatened as we approach a political season is that issue of unity. We now start to see ourselves more as wherever it is that we come from. Is it something that you're prepared for? The rhetoric that usually comes with politicking and campaigning, which we can already begin to feel in the air as to whether or not the presidency will be zoned to the north or the south, etc. Is it something that you're bothered about and you have a plan for?
Thank you again for having me, and thank you for that question. One of the great things about Nigeria, of course, is this whole diversity that we speak of, right, and the numbers. But then it's also, to a certain extent, it's a curse. Because unfortunately, we haven't gotten to the point where we look at ourselves as Nigerian, and still we seem to have this great divide in terms of, where we come from, ethnicities, regions. And, politicians tend to take advantage of that. Because when you're talking about government, right, in the cabinet, there are members of Nigeria from all over the place. And we don't classify ourselves within that specific divide. And then, when Nigerians struggle or suffer, when we go through strife, we're still find that it is politicians that really sort of use that for their own interests. So that is very unfortunate. For me, and I'm going to answer that question twofold. For me, number one, I think my ministry has the greatest power of any other ministry, because it is the one ministry that tends to resonate with everyone. And, we talk about the diversity, but every village, and I've been around the country, every village that I go to, the one thing that everybody speaks is the music, is the fashion, is the food, is the jollof. Everybody's eating the jollof now. In my village, people are taking banga soup, It's the one area of resonance, is the music. In my tiny little village, when you enter into a mud hut, people are singing Davido, they're singing Burna Boy. And recently I went into a community, a southern community, and somebody was singing ra ra ra. You understand? So that shows you is the real power is in the creative industry. Part of what I hope to do, or part of what I am doing, is to ensuring that we use that industry to break down some of these barriers in terms of identity. So you saw me, for example, at Ojude Oba, and I've taken Ojude Oba as ownership, as part of my own identity as well. I don't come from Ogun State, but it's part of my pride. We just returned some artifacts into from Netherlands to Edo State. That's part of my heritage as a Nigerian. So this industry, this ministry, is the one that has the power to unite. And very soon we're going to come out with a program that's going to hopefully unite Nigeria through the arts. So that is one. When you talk about politics now, it is high season for politics, or rather we're getting into high season for politics. So it is understandable that politicians are going to use every single resource that they have, and they're going to weaponize ethnicity and what have you. So I think that's understandable. But for me, it's really to remain focused and to bring my candidate, which is the candidacy of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, together with Vice President Kashim Shettima, to show Nigerians that, this is the right way for us to go to sustain ourselves in terms of trying to have some sort of a sustainable, recalibrated future that is going to be for the benefit of every Nigerian.
How important is it, this zoning arrangement, how important is it to Nigeria's stability in the scheme of things?
I think zoning is important only because we have not been able to get over the doldrum of, ethnicity, and we're not looking at ourselves as Nigerian. And I think you spoke about that poem, I Am a Nigerian, that, I wrote and produced a couple of months ago, which will be coming back onto the airwaves very soon. Okay, so now we have not gotten over that. And because we've not gotten over that, I think every part of Nigeria, or rather the north and the south, have to feel as if they're being carried along. So it is understandable that after 8 years of President Buhari, who was from the north, power needed to shift down to the south, right? So now, power is for the next 2 years, 4 years, is going to be with a southern presidency. And hopefully power should continue for the next 4 years after that to be with a southern presidency, only to create that sort of balance. Hopefully one day we'll be able to get over that, and it will only be candidates will only be judged on their capacity and what they have to bring onto the table. But since we are not there yet, for the benefit of this politics now, power should certainly, for the next 6 years, remain in the southern part of the country.
So any political party that is fielding a candidate that is not from the south right now?
Well, for me, my interest is APC, is for APC to ensure, and I think we've already announced that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to be the candidate for APC. What other parties do, that's really left up to them. But whatever they do, we are watching very keenly to ensure that we counter that with the success from our side.
You haven't been quiet about politics, but I'll get to that in a bit. So I want to start off with a few things that you did recently. A 20 million euro initiative to strengthen a museum partnership and support film festivals and digital industries. Yeah. That was with the EU delegation.
Yeah, yes.
A few days ago.
Yes, we have not yet signed. We're still in the process because I know it's gone out into the news because I just did an interview and they brought that up. Yeah. With the EU, we are in the process of finalising that specific MOU. So the details of that are not. I won't be able to diverge, but we are in the partnership. We're in the process of doing that in terms of building up the museum assets and the structure within that. But what I can talk to you about is the one that we have done with the French Treasury, which is 100 million euros towards building infrastructure, right? So we've already signed that, and the infrastructure would include creative hubs in 6 geopolitical zones.
Is it the Renewed Hope Cultural Villages?
No, that's separate.
That's a different one altogether.
That's a different one. So
that's a lot of work.
We've done a lot of work. So this one is with the 100 million euros that is going to go into our creative industry and tourism corporation that was recently approved by the Federal Executive Council, a special purpose vehicle. So this is funding that we've been able to secure from the French, with the French Treasury, 100 million euros that is going to go into building creative hubs, animation hubs, design hubs, and to just to build that ecosystem in terms of what we have to offer for capacity building for the creators, because we have a lot of creators, but the government has not been able to put, up until now, variables that will allow them to be able to grow.
But this, the one that was signed at St Lucia, is that an MOU that is sorted already?
So St Lucia, yes. That's a different MOU. So we've done a number. I was in St Lucia.
So you signed it with your counterpart there, Dr. Ernest Hilary.
Yes, we did.
So what's that about? What's that supposed to be?
So first of all, many people ask why St Lucia? And I continue to say that we are actually lucky that we have a president that has the ability to think ahead and outside the box. So Lucia wouldn't be your perfect fit for Nigeria, only because they say less than 200,000 people population in St. Lucia, which is almost as big as my village, right? However, St. Lucia is the gateway to the Caribbean, which is 44 million people in terms of population and counting, because you have a greater global community. And this is 13 countries. So St. Lucia is the headquarters to the Organization for the Eastern Caribbean. They're right there in St. Lucia. So it was, for me, I thought it was quite ingenious for the president looking at the atmosphere, the global atmosphere, whereby as Nigerians, we have to struggle to even get an appointment, to have a visa that is going to last, one entry for 3 months. So we need to look at who has the appetite and, the interest in what we have to offer in terms of our content and in terms of our country. So the president, I thought it was great, what he said to us was that the colonialists, when they went to the Caribbean, did not take away from Africa. What they did was they enhanced Africa. And I thought that was a beautiful way of looking at it. So Lucia is opening up our opportunities in terms of creativity and the cultural diplomacy. The festivals that they have. We have our Calabar Festival. We have our Dirty Decembers. Everybody in
jazz thing going.
The Jazz Festival, which we're going to play a part of. Everyone in St. Lucia wants to watch an Hollywood movie. I was actually shocked that people in St. Lucia were talking to me about Glamour Girls, which was I think sometime in the 1990s. They know everything about the Hollywood industry. So this is a whole audience that Nigeria can tap into their resources. And for me, sitting on top of tourism, trying to open up possibilities in tourism, St. Lucia, I think, is a perfect place for us to be able to get some capacity building. And we've already started talking about partnering with St. Lucia on building resorts here in Nigeria.
But being very practical, Kayla, I mean, an honourable minister.
Yes, please.
St. Lucia is a distance away.
Yeah.
And we do not have any direct flights. Yeah. So it would seem that the logistics to support this very bright idea is not quite there.
Yeah.
How soon, I mean, how do you intend to overcome that hurdle?
Yeah.
And how quickly do you think we can begin to see the results of partnerships like this?
So, St. Lucia, that was one of the things that was on the table, is the accessibility. The fact that I had to go around the world in less than 30 days to get to St. Lucia was a problem in and of itself. So one of the things that will be established is a direct route. And those discussions are being currently undertaken with the Minister of Aviation and the counterpart ministries to ensure that we have direct flights to St. Lucia. And like I said, it's not really
without a national carrier?
Even without a national carrier, we do have a very vibrant private sector that is more than willing to offer them their services. For example, in Brazil, I've just heard they have announced that Air Peace will be making direct flights to Brazil. So it's the same thing. If we have an enabling environment that allows even the private sector to flourish in the aviation sector, that is a route that we are empowering Nigerians in terms of eventually getting to a national carrier. So it's not, like I said, it's not about the route only to St. Lucia. It's about that gateway into a wider Caribbean community and a wider global community of African and Caribbean descent.
I was looking at you at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yes.
You were so excited.
I was so excited.
And for good reason. My Father's Shadow by the Nigerian British director, Akim Davis Jr. It is quite a story, isn't it?
Yeah.
But,
Amazing.
talking about how we can, create films that can be showcased at that level.
Yeah.
Is that something that you're involved in as well?
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the things I've always looked at when they talk about Nollywood is great. We're the second largest film industry in the world. But it's not always about quantity, right? It's also about quality.
Yes.
And this is one of the things that we're working on in terms of some of the policies and the regulations and some of the great initiatives that Dr. Shuaib is bringing into Videos and Censors Board. So we're looking at quality as well. And then we, as a ministry, are being quite intentional in ensuring that we present ourselves to, like you said, the Cannes Film Festival, the Red Sea. We're going to play a showing. My Father's Shadow. We're pushing. We had the unveiling and the viewing of it, and hopefully, you know, we're pushing to see if we can get onto the Academy, onto the Oscars as well, even if it's just a nomination. But I'm hoping, from what I've seen with My Father's Shadow, that is a film that can win the best film in the Oscars. But, you know, government has never been quite active in terms of helping this industry. In the past, all the great things that we've seen that have come out of the industry is organically on their own. It's Nigerians that have built the fashion industry on their own. The music, the Nollywood is them, without government. So, you know, this is, again, what the president did when he came on board. He set up a ministry, standalone, that's going to look at the peculiarity of what does this industry need. And I thought that was amazing. And I'm actually honored that he gave me this great responsibility to look at what needs to be done. And what we did was a very thorough interrogation of what has been done in, for example, South Korea and other clients. And we have come up with a fantastic roadmap. It's taken us a while because funding constraints, of course, and data mapping, IP policy frameworks, infrastructure that we've spoken about, and funding. Funding, there's a huge dearth of funding. And my ministry has been able to secure $200 million from Afrexim Bank, which we have put into the Creative Economy Development Fund. That was, again, approved by the Federal Executive Council. Now we're able to inject funding direct into the industry. And we just recently closed the first round of applications for creatives to apply for this funding directly. And it's not directly with the government, it's with a special purpose vehicle, so that there's no bureaucratic red tape that goes on, and it gets
What's
directly.
the interest rate on the funds when they apply?
What is the...
Is that interest rate? Is it operating like a bank?
Yes, it is a loan, but the interest rate is extremely, extremely low.
How much?
It's extremely low. We're not there, but it's extremely low with the application process. I have encouraged even some of the greats in the industry to make those applications. You know, by the time we give them the offer of, an offer, then they will be able to make the decision as to whether they can use that in terms of building their businesses.
The data mapping that's been done by your industry, by your ministry.
Yes.
It's supposed to enhance job creation.
Yes.
How many jobs are we looking at, and what kind of jobs are these?
So at the very beginning, like I said, President Bod Hamilton asked me to use this ministry for economic expansion, number one, for job creation. For him, it's about job creation. And I thought that this is the best way we can do it, because this is the only ministry that has the ability to create those jobs. It has the resonance. Every Nigerian can't find a job in an oil company or work in an Ivy League, but every Nigerian can create content on their phone, content creators, something like that. So it's really about that enabling environment. And I said to him, based on the interrogation that we did with the deep dive that we did with the BCG, that we would be able to create 2 million jobs by 2030. I think 2027, but it actually turned out to be 2030. The data mapping program that we just concluded now, it just concluded, I think we concluded about a week ago, but we're going to present it hopefully when we have a Creative Economy Coordination Summit in the next 2 weeks. Now we have clarity as to where the jobs are coming. We have clarity as to the strength of the industry. We have clarity as to where the investment can come in. By the time we unveil this data mapping, and I think it's going to be a revolutionary program.
When are you unveiling?
We are unveiling, we're trying to get the dates now. In fact, just before I came this morning, I was trying to see if we can secure a date for the first week of August. If we can do it first or second week of August, based on the availability, because it will be unveiled in conjunction with the Office of the Vice President. So I have to get his dates. And once we get his dates, this data mapping structure is really going to give a lot of confidence to creatives in the industry, to just Nigerians generally, to know that there are jobs in this industry, and to people coming in from global investment community.
So what exactly do you have in mind? Because, excuse me, you already mentioned Nigerians in informal creative sector. A lot of Nigerians are already on TikTok, on Instagram, and they're already doing content. They're already in the creative economy, you know, without even being formally recognized. What sort of support can they look forward to, and how do you intend to intervene without exactly it being top down?
So it can't be top down. It has to be accessible down. I'm not even looking down up. It just has to be accessible to everyone. So number one, like I said, is the policy. So you have to put in an IP policy that's going to protect them from a policy point of view. You have to ensure, and we're working together with the Ministry of Justice to ensure that the copyright as well is in place. And then you have to also look at funding. Funding is key. As much as you want to empower these creatives, as a ministry, you're not going to be able to do it, but you have to give them the opportunity to have these funding mechanisms. Last year, we unveiled a platform called Creative Leap Acceleration Program, CLAP. So CLAP is an online sort of one-stop shop, whereby creatives can get the networking, the funding, the access that they need to get. We're still working on unbundling and uploading CLAP to ensure that every Nigerian has access, because I know that 240 million Nigerians are not going to be able to get an appointment to come to the ministry or what have you. So you have to be able to give this enabling environment. And then the hubs that I spoke about, you put them in every geopolitical zones. So in terms of the capacity building and in terms of knowledge with the AI, how the AI can be brought into the creativity, has to be available to them in their specific zones, right? And then the funding, I spoke about the CEDF, Creative Economy Development Fund, which we continue to try to bring in funding. Already we have this Afrexim $200 million from Afrexim Bank, which we have injected into CEDF. So all the funding structure is going to go into CEDF, and that's going to be available to Nigerians, not from the ministry, but directly from the CEDF, which is a special purpose vehicle. And then President...
Interest rate you have refused to tell us.
No, hang on. Let me just touch on this briefly, because we're going to talk about the Renewed Hope Cultural project. Yeah. So President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is actually very concerned about some of our programming not being accessible to every single state, which is why we went to the National Executive Council to do a MOU.
National Executive, you mean Economic Council?
Sorry, not the FEC. The National Economic Council, with the subnationals, so that we do a MOU and an agreement and a partnership with the federal government and the subnationals. So now we're taking all of our initiatives that we're doing to the subnational level, so that the subnationals also, incidentally, are doing similar things, right? And working in silos. So we bring it together, and then they populate that MOU. So some of these initiatives that we're doing has the ability to be distilled to every single state, and then the state, in conjunction with us, will help us distill it to the local governments.
Very quickly, how do you, because this ministry is new.
It is new.
What are you hoping will be the legacy that will be left in the first tenure of this administration?
I think the legacy of this ministry is going to be the sustainability of Nigeria as a whole. Because like I said, I do believe, and the president does believe, that the future of this young generation, 70% of the population, lies in us being able to absorb them into the job job market, right? And the way that we can do that effectively, honestly, is through the cultural and the creative industry. Every village, everybody that came in here is dressed, that's passion. Everybody ate, that's gastronomy. You have a name, that's heritage, right? It's culture. We have a language, it's culture. So everything that we do as people speaks to culture, arts, creative industry, and tourism, even tourism, domestic tourism. Every village that you go from one village to another, to one state to another. So there's a huge resource. I want a legacy of this ministry to be in the vision and the vision and the mission of the president, which is to have a long-term sustainability. And my own mandate is to ensure that we give Nigerians hope through this ministry and give at least 2.7 million Nigerians into the job market by 2030.
Honourable Minister, we have to thank you very much for coming on the program. We didn't even get to touch tourism, but you have
politics.
You said we need to do this a little more frequently. We'll
Yes,
take you up on that.
Yeah.
We have been speaking with Hannatu Musawa, who's the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. Thank you once more for coming. Well, that's how we wrap up the program this beautiful Friday morning. We thank you so much for being a part of it throughout this week. I'm Maupe Ogunyusuf.
Have a great weekend ahead. I'm Kayla Magwa.